Hi guys, welcome back to the reading corner. We're going to continue reading from The Family Under the Bridge. Chapter 3. Armand, the Paris hobo, led the red-headed children up the steps to the busy city above. His old mind under his old beret was busy with great plans for the children and himself. Perhaps starlings weren't too bad. They had their uses. He walked ahead, leading the way across the bridge and around Notre Dame. Susie followed with Evelyn clinging to her hand. Sometimes Paul wagged to look at something. Sometimes he ran ahead to talk with the hobo. The dog that should have been white trotted along at Susie's worn-down heels. They straggled across the bridge that tied the island to the right bank. The children started to stare at all the fancy towers and turrets on the roof of the Hotel de Ville. That's the city hall where they run Paris, explained Armand. I could run it better from under the bridge. Blue pigeons fluttered around them hopefully. Here's the photo. Beggars, snorted the tramp, always pestering folks for a handout. Jojo felt the same way. He chased away any that alighted too close to the children. I wish we had some corn to feed them, said Paul. See what I mean? Asked Armand. Even people who haven't any food themselves are ready to feed the pigeons. Wish I was one. They walked through a dreary cobbled street until they reached the busy Rue de Rivoli. It was crowded with holiday shoppers. Christmas was really getting close to the business streets. Vendors behind sidewalk stands were bawling out their wares and imploring passers-by to examine their merchandise. Shoppers were buying earrings and suspenders and water softeners and silk scarves from the vendors. They were buying frantically and noisily as if they might never find anything again for sale on the Rue de Rivoli. And the way they were madly buying, perhaps there wouldn't be anything left on the street the next day. Armand was continually having to turn around and coax the children along. They wanted to stop and look at everything. They stopped to stare at a mechanical soldier that a man was demonstrating on the sidewalk. The soldier marched and saluted smartly. It took some time to get Paul away from the soldier. Cheap toy, scoffed Armand. Take it home and it won't work, or the spring will break the first time it's wound. A friend of mine used to sell those things. No sooner had he coaxed them away from the mechanical toy when they came to a bakery shop. There was a Christmas log cake in the window. Such a delicious log. It was chocolatey brown with fancy mushrooms popping from its sweet bark. Pink spun sugar roses grew out of the chocolate too, and such a real-looking ivy vine twined around it, spreading luscious green leaves. Oh, doesn't it look good? Exclaimed Susie, licking her lips. I could eat it all by myself, cried Paul. I'm hungry, whined Evelyn. Armand pulled at each one in turn. It really tastes like medicine, he said, all but the vine. That tastes exactly like ivy, tough and bitter. I ate a Christmas log once. The children did not look as if they believed him. It's a tricky way they have of getting children to take medicine, he insisted. They crossed the street when the policeman stopped the line of automobiles. They came to a big iron brazier where a man was selling hot chestnuts as fast as he could roast them. The air was warm around the brazier, and the smell of chestnuts was tantalizing. The children stopped and looked hungrily into the brazier. Come, come, said Armand impatiently. Chestnuts are wormy. Do you think Father Christmas is going to wait until midnight for us? We've still got a long way to the Louvre. But there was so much to see that the wait seemed quite short. Soon they were walking through the street arcades of the store building, and it seemed that as much was being sold outside as in, with all the push carts and street hawkers. Armand shepherded his little flock through one of the great glass doors of which the store was so proud. When the children and the dog were once inside, they felt transported into fairyland. It was warm and beautiful in the great store with its bright lights and moving colors. There was an odor of mixed perfumes as if all the flowers in the world were blooming behind the counters that were covered with soft clothing and glittering jewels. We have to go up to the mezzanine, said Armand. Might as well use their elevator and save our feet for the walk back. So they went to the nearest elevator. But all the people waiting could not possibly crowd into it at the same time. We'll have to take the steps, decided Armand. Wouldn't you think some of these women would stay home and do their washing and cooking? Our mother would if she could, said Susie quickly. They climbed the stairs. The children's eyes grew dreamier and dreamier. They saw tables piled high with toys. They were entering the domain of Father Christmas. On tiptoe, reverently, they followed the old hobo to the studio where a child could have his picture taken with the saint, providing his parents paid for it. Armand peeped in. The children stopped breathing. He's not here, said the hobo in a disappointed voice. But even as he spoke, Father Christmas himself came around the counters. He was dressed in a long red robe that reached his ankles, and a curly white beard covered his chest. His mustache was waved and waxed, but his black eyes were snapping as he shook his fist at two boys running ahead of him. And if I catch you playing with the electric trains again, I'll put you out of the store, he threatened them. The Cowset children weren't frightened. They shrank behind Armand, and as Father Christmas approached them, Evelyn burst into frightened tears, and Jojo growled. At sight of Armand, the angry lines left the forehead of Father Christmas and blithely curled around his lips. His eyes softened with pleasure and amusement. Ho, 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 he laughed in the way that Father Christmas should laugh. Look at whose dear old grandpa has come to see me today, and he went on with his ho, 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 until the children were afraid he had a coughing spell. Armand pulled the little Cowsets in front of him one by one. Evelyn stopped crying and Jojo stopped growling. You'd never believe where I found them, said Armand, but they wanted to come to see you. The children's eyes were shining again. They were speechless with delight. Have you been good children this year? Asked Father Christmas. We've tried to be, parried Susie. Sometimes we get mixed up about what's good and what isn't, confessed Paul. I pulled Jojo's tail, but I won't do it anymore, confessed Evelyn. Father Christmas was pleased. I like truthful children, he said. All the rest of them declare they've been angels out all year. Now what do you want me to bring you for Christmas? We want a house, said Susie. Will you please bring us a house, Father Christmas? Ho, 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 replied Father Christmas. That should be agreeable to your parents. And what kind of house do you want? A dollhouse? He glanced down at Jojo, or a dog house? A real house, said Paul. A house we can live in. With walls and a roof, said Susie. And windows, added Evelyn. I like to watch out of the window when it's time for Susie and Paul to come home from school. Father Christmas stopped his jolly ho, 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 and stared at them. Whoever heard the children wanting a real house for Christmas, he asked. What about a drum for the lad and dolls for you girls? No, insisted Susie. It has to be a real house. Father Christmas rolled his black eyes around and twirled the ends of his mustache. It'll have to be dolls or games, he said. My little donkey can't carry a house on his back. You know that. The children's faces fell. Then Susie remembered her manners. Thank you anyway, Father Christmas, she said in a quivering voice. I guess we don't want anything but a house. I do, said Paul. I want something to eat. And I want a doll, added Evelyn. Father Christmas started to speak, but a pretty sales girl interrupted him. You better get into the studio or Monsieur Latour will fire you, she said. There are 4 children waiting to have their pictures taken. Father Christmas patted each redhead in farewell. Then he said to Armand, our Monsieur Latour is looking for a night watchman for a friend's building. Want the job? Ooh la la, exclaimed Armand. I didn't come here to ask Father Christmas for a job. Goodbye, Camille. He led the children down the steps again, but now they were strangely silent. Even Jojo's ears drooped and his tail dragged. The main floor was less crowded as they walked between the counters. An elegant floor worker caught sight of the vagabonds. He hurried to them. He made a little noise as he tapped the immaculately white handkerchief peeping from his breast pocket. Aren't you in the wrong store? He asked haughtily. I should say we're in the wrong store, replied Armand, just as huddled. We brought our dog in here to ride the escalators, and all I see is those crowded elevators, he whistled to Jojo. Come, boy, we'll take you over to the Printemps. Jojo growled at the haughty floor walker. The little group headed for the great glass door of which the store was so proud. They shivered as they stepped out in the cold, biting air. Chapter 4. There's a fancy Christmas window out here you should see, said Armand to the children. He wanted to cheer them because they were so silent and forlorn. He led them to the main doors facing the Palais Royal Square. A crowd of people blocked the window, but the tramp and his companions wormed their way to the front. The children's eyes bulged. Such a grand sight they had never seen. A scroll near the front of the window said that the scene was the marriage of Tartine. It was truly a wedding out of a storybook. 2 mechanical figures, a man and a woman dressed in gorgeous white costumes of long ago, stood in a high pavilion. They bowed sedately to each other while music tinkled romantically. But even more remarkable was the parade of tiny figures below the lovers. They were white-capped cooks bearing wondrous dishes to the wedding feast. One carried a gaudy peacock, which raised and lowered its neck in time to the tune. Another held up a great crab that clicked out the rhythm with its claws. And yet another carried a cake even fancier than the Christmas log in the bakery window. Each little cook was so proud of his dish that he waltzed around and around as he paraded. I bet they will live in a beautiful castle after the wedding, sighed Susie, gazing at the lovely bride and groom. I'm hungry, said Paul. Me too, agreed Evelyn. The dog that should have been white was drooling on a man's shoes. A crafty look came into Armand's eyes. I bet you know the words of the tune they're playing, he coaxed. It's Dame Tartine. If you'll sing it for me, I'll get you something to eat. Paul put his hand over his mouth. Evelyn put her finger in hers. Susie shyly shook her head. There are too many people here, she said. Then sing for them, said Armand. Don't be stupid starlings without a song in your throats. Open your little beaks and sing like canaries. So Paul pulled his hand from his mouth and began to sing in a thin but firm voice. Then Susie joined him in a sweet, high tone. Evelyn took her finger out of her mouth and chirped with them. They sang like 3 little birds on a branch in the springtime. When they had finished 2 verses, Armand clapped hard. Then he pulled his beret off his head and held it out to one person after another in the crowd. And alms, he begged. Alms for a poor old grandfather with 3 fatherless children to clothe and feed, and an orphan dog. The people gave generously because they felt the spirit of Christmas. The coins clinked into the hobo's beret. The concert had been so successful that Armand waited until the first audience left, and the new one came to look at the window. Then he had the children sing again, and again He passed his bray for coins. This might have gone on for some time if the haughty floor walker hadn't come out of the store to see why the crowd around the window was bigger than ever. He scowled at the quartet. On your way, he ordered them with a wave of his hand and his nose in the air. No begging in front of the Louvre. Armand did not mind bleeding. His bray was heavy with francs, which he funneled into his pocket. Come, canaries, he said, you are good children. I'll treat you to pancakes. He took them around the corner to where a Breton man stood behind a stand making thin pancakes on 2 round black irons. I'll take a dozen for a starter, ordered Armand, but he had to show his money before the Breton would pour the batter on an iron. One by one, the man made the pancakes so slowly that the children thought they would die of hunger before he had made a full dozen. The smell was even better than that of the perfume in the Louvre. The cakes were big as scooter wheels and thin as silk. The Bretons spread each one with butter and jelly, then folded it twice. Everyone got 3 pancakes. Then Jojo whined pitifully, and they remembered that he was probably hungry too, so Armand ordered another dozen pancakes. They started back, munching happily on their pancakes. But Jojo kept on whining because he had swallowed each of his in one big gulp. When they reached the corner where a crowd of shoppers was, waiting for buses, Armand suggested to the children that they entertain the weary people with some Christmas carols. The little Calcettes were less shy this time. They sang as loud as they could. As before, the hobo passed his beret around. Alms he begged, so poor old man can feed his starving children. But as the coins fell into his cap, an angry fist rapped against his back. Armand was frightened because he thought it was a policeman, but it was only another man as ragged as himself. A big box hung from his neck, and in it a little monkey dressed in a red and green suit made faces to scream. What do you mean, cutting into my territory? Demanded the man with the monkey. You're stealing my show. Armand tried to make peace. Now let's cross swords, Titty, he said. There's enough of a crowd for both of us. The kind of people who like to listen to choirs wouldn't be interested in watching a monkey make faces anyway. Titty was not refused. Children or monkeys? What's the difference? He demanded. And this is my corner. But the children did not join them in the quarrel, although Jojo barked at the monkey and the monkey made his worst face at the dog. Then the monkey gave the children a sad smile and held out its green cap to them. Oh, he wants money too, said Susie. And there's a bowl on top of the box for coins. Please give the little monkey some money, Monsieur Armand. Indeed, I will not, snapped Armand. Please, please, Monsieur, begged Evelyn. The little monkey wants to buy some pancakes too. There's the monkey. By this time, most of the shoppers had boarded their buses. Armand tried to hustle his choir away, but the children wouldn't let him leave until he dropped a coin in the bowl for the monkey. That Titty is a fake, explained the hobo as they walked down the street. He's just using the monkey to make money for himself, and he rattled the coins in his own pocket. When they came to the chestnut vendor, he treated them again. They waited as long as they could before eating the chestnuts, because the hot shells warmed their hands. Now remember, Armand cautioned the children, not a word about this to your mama, and I'll take you with me every day. But when Madame Calcette came wearily down the steps that evening, the children rushed to meet her. I saved the pancake for you, Mama, cried Susie, digging into the pocket of her favorite coat. It's cold now, but it still tastes sweet. Polo reached into his coat pocket too. And I brought you some chestnuts, Mama, he said. They're cold too, but they'll taste good. Evelyn began to sob. I didn't save anything for you, Mama, she wept. I forgot. Madame Calcette hugged her. Never mind, she said. I brought something for you. Then her voice grew suspicious. Where did you get the pancake and the chestnuts? She asked. Susie and Paul lowered their eyes. We sang songs and people dropped money in Monsieur Armand's cap, said Evelyn. Madame Calcette flung the children's gifts to the ground. She angrily advanced toward the hobo, who was stretched out on his canvas. You've turned my children into beggars, she accused. You've been using them for begging on the streets. Now, Madame, Armand tried to quiet her. When the grand singers at the opera get paid for their songs, is that begging? I'll give you your share. But Madame Calcette was busy tearing down canvases and gathering up blankets. I don't want any of your ill-gotten money, she retorted. We are going to leave, she cried to the children. I forbid you to have anything more to do with him. The children began to wail. Even Jojo howled dismally because he seemed to sense that there wouldn't be any pancakes on the Rue de Rivoli. Armand proudly rose to his knobby knees. No need, madam, he said as subtly as he had spoken to the floor walker. I'll leave myself and save you the trouble. I know when I'm not welcome. It took him very little time to peck his baby Buggy. Don't go, cried Susie. Please don't let him go, Mama. He's our grandpa, sobbed Evelyn. He's all we have but you, added Paul. But Armand thrust out his beard. You just keep your old bridge, madam. He said, it'll be a long time until you find anything else. Goodbye, starlings. Then he bumped his buggy down the quay. He clattered it as noticeably as he could till it would drown out the sound of the children's laments and the dogs howling. And this is in chapter 3 and 4 of The Family Under the Bridge. Bye guys. See you on Wednesday.